Welcome to the Saturday Livestream for the Practical Woodsman. Is everything working this time? I hope everything's working. I'm actually going to have my lunch, so if you got your lunch, let's have lunch together. And let's talk about these live streams, these Saturday live streams. Give some folks a little bit of time to get in here. Show you what I got. You know what this makes me think about? It makes me think about your first meal when you come out of the woods, when you're like on a long excursion in the woods. For me, the first real meal when I come out of the woods after a big excursion, for me that meal is like a celebration. Especially if I've been out in the woods for like a week or longer. Man, that first meal, you daydream about it. It's the way I get my buddy Jeffrey. That's the way I motivate him up mountains. Because I say, just imagine, Jeffrey, as soon as we get out of here, we're going to have a great big gigantic pizza. And he starts thinking about that pizza. It gets him right up the mountain. Not bad. I know what you guys are wondering. Where did I get this taco burrito thing? Well, you might have thought Taco Bell, but you're wrong. I went out. I harvested this from the woods. Found this in the woods, grown on a tree. Brought it back here. Practical Woodsman style. G. Hun says food motivates you. Motivates me too. That's why I enjoy actual cooking so much out in the backcountry. I do use those mountain house meals every once in a while, but I like the process of building my meal, putting what I want in the meal, leaving what I don't want out of the meal. Yeah, so I want to talk about these live streams. Maybe get your guys' feedback on this. The Practical Woodsman has 3 different show types. Adventures, that's when I take you with me out into the woods. I'm actually on these excursions in the woods. Number 2 is exclusives. That's my opportunity to show off gear, show off things. And then number 3 is the podcast. So what I've been thinking about this week is, where do the live streams fall into place here? And so I've got some good ideas that I wanted to share with you to give these Saturday live streams some direction rather than just always winging it like this. I'd like them to have some value. And I mean, they do. This spontaneous stuff is fun. It also has value, but what I mean is I'd like it to have substance. And so here's some things I was thinking about. We could use the Saturday live streams to answer questions about gear, about what I like for the woods, what I don't like for the woods, But I want to have like an ongoing conversation with you all. I have invited y'all to join me while I prepare for trips in the past. Not necessarily for live streams, but I have recorded that in the past. And here's a good one. What would you do? I like this idea. So I'm going to present a scenario, and I'd like for you guys to tell me, what would you do? What do you think you would do in certain given scenarios? You're up on a mountain. You're backpacking across a ridge. You've got miles to go. Thunderstorm blows up on you, and lightning is zapping all around. What would you do? It is hot outside, humid. See what you guys have to say. I mean, you really got to put yourself there. If you've never found yourself in that situation, you really got to try to imagine yourself in that situation. You're on a ridge. You're backpacking across a ridge. G-Huns on local says move to lower ground, not into flood area, and find shelter from rain. All right, let me give you some more details about this situation because this has happened to me. You say just get off the mountain, right? That's what you're supposed to do. The problem is it took you 2 hours to get to the top of that mountain. And it's going to take you 30 minutes to get off the mountain. You get up, G-Huns, you know some of those Pennsylvania mountains. You get up there so high, really, really high altitude. It's not always as simple as just getting off the mountain because you're talking about 30, 40 minutes of work to get off the mountain, and you don't know how long that thunderstorm is going to last. So it's a real pickle. It puts you in a real pickle because you know you're supposed to get off the mountain, but you've just invested all this work. And, frankly, by the time you get off a mountain that high, the storm is going to pass. And so then you're going to have to turn right back around and go back up again. So it's not very easy thing to do. See what anybody else has to say. And now that I've given you those details, G-Huns, do you think you'd change your answer to that any? G-Hun says, move lower so I hit the highest lightning strike point. Yeah, when you get up on those really tall mountains, the mountain is very steep. So you can actually move down the side of the mountain to not be like up on the highest point. But you're going to be going through brush. You're going to be going through rocks and stuff like that. A lot of rattlesnakes in that sort of environment. And another thing that's interesting is that if lightning strikes the top of the mountain, it will spread. That lightning will spread and move down the sides of the mountain. So that's also something to think about. I've been right up in the clouds before. Just got the weirdest comment on YouTube. Really weird comment on YouTube. Wonder if that's somebody I know. And I got the folks mowing the grass outside right now. So that's a little bit distracting. This is a weird comment on YouTube. I don't know if that person's serious or what's going on there. So anyway, lightning on top of a mountain. I'll tell you what, people ask me sometimes if I'm afraid of anything in the backcountry. I'm not really. I don't worry about animals. I don't worry about insects. I don't worry about snakes. Nothing like that. But what I do worry about is lightning. Gee, Huns, it's raining for you in Pennsylvania. Interesting. I had some rain last night, but it's been very humid but bright today here. I can't remember what I was saying. The person on YouTube says, can't watch stream. Streamer too handsome, making me feel gay. It's definitely not a girl then. I'm wondering if that's a buddy of mine or something pulling a prank on me. I'll tell you something about going into the backcountry. Yeah, let me talk to you about this. In my experience, um, here's my experience. I'm going to mention 3 different states for going into wilderness, going into deep backcountry. One is Pennsylvania. It's like my favorite. Definitely one of my favorites is Pennsylvania wild country. In Pennsylvania, they take very good care of their trails. So the Pennsylvania wilderness trails are like top notch. You don't need any permits to hike on the majority of them. And the ones that I would need a permit for, I'm not interested in, because if you need a permit to go in there, you know what that means. It means there's 900 other people going there too. So I don't go into permit areas. I only go into areas that are wild, and I don't need a permit, and I don't need permission, and I don't have anybody giving me a bunch of rules about what I can and can't do. So Pennsylvania is great for that. There's so much wilderness, pristine wilderness in Pennsylvania. Now, having said that, it is a little, it's not as wild as some of these other states, wild areas. So remember what I was saying. Pennsylvania takes really good care of their backpacking trails, their hunting trails, and stuff like that. Most of them are really nicely marked on trees, so it's not too hard to follow. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of skill. I mean, as far as just like following a path, and you're not, having to climb over bunches of stuff or under bunches of stuff, or you've got a really nice trail on most of those Pennsylvania wilderness areas. The problem with that is that it's kind of civilized. The wild, you're talking about a wilderness area, but it's kind of civilized because they take such good care of most of their trails. You'll find a lot of pre-established campsites and stuff like that. So that's Pennsylvania. If you're interested in doing excursions in the wilderness, in pristine wilderness, that's what you can expect in Pennsylvania. Beautiful, gorgeous. I love it. It's probably my favorite, but you don't really need to know how to navigate or anything like that. I mean, most of the skills that you're going to need for something like that is not dying because of the cold or from lightning. We were just talking about lightning. And, water, pristine water in Pennsylvania, up in the wild areas. Now, the other state I wanted to tell you about was Kentucky. I got a lot of experience in the wilderness areas of Kentucky. What can you expect in Kentucky? In my experience in Kentucky, you have to share an awful lot with an awful lot of people. And I hate that. I hate that. In fact, I was in Chattanooga a couple weeks ago, and I went to this place, a lot of you have probably heard of it, called Rock City. Rock City, it's kind of like Chattanooga kind of shares it with Georgia. Chattanooga, Tennessee, I'm talking about. And I went to this Rock City because everybody talking about it. I hated it. It was beautiful, beautiful scenery and everything, but there were 9 million people there. And so you're walking down this trail. I mean, you're sharing that trail with toe to heel with a line of people. So I hate that sort of thing. Now, of course, I wasn't in the wilderness there in Chattanooga. I'm just describing what Kentucky kind of reminds me of. I have a story about I was in the wilderness in Kentucky. I thought I was out in the middle of nowhere. I thought I was out in the middle of nowhere. It was like the second or third day. So I get up in the morning and I go to relieve myself. Go number two, not number one, number two. So what do you do when you got to go number two? Well, you try to find a private place, right? So we were sandwiched between a river and the side of a mountain. So we were down like on this kind of a bank, but it was a high bank. No chance of the water coming up or anything like that. Just kind of sandwiched in that area. I thought I was out in the middle of nowhere. So I go, leave the guys. I go try to find a private place. Not easy to do. I don't want to climb up the side of the mountain. And there's only so much woods, right? Before you hit the river. So I found what I thought was this completely secluded spot. And I squat down there and I'm doing my business, thinking that nobody can see me because it's full on. I mean, the trees were full of foliage and everything. You know how private the woods can be when it's summer, when everything's green. That's how I felt. I felt completely at ease. Felt like nobody's around. Nobody could find me even if they wanted to. And then I heard a car door shut. You know, I'm in the middle of the woods doing number two. My butt hanging out and everything, you know, how exposed you are. I hear car door slam. Sounds like it's right next to me. And so I quickly clean myself up. I stand up. I look across the river, and right through the trees on the other side of the river is a parking area. There's like a whole army of cars parked over there. So there must have been a trailhead or something there. And that was in Red River Gorge, if you guys are wondering. Talking about Red River Gorge in Kentucky. So that's the sort of impression I have of Kentucky. I love the wilderness of Kentucky. I don't like sharing it with 9 million other people. And I don't like the regulations and that sort of thing. So, if you want, we'll talk about a third state. A third state where you can go into these pristine wilderness areas and what you can expect there. Here's where you want to go. If you want nobody at all babysitting you, nobody at all going ahead of you and putting paint marks on trees so that you don't get lost. If you want to pick your own camp spots, that means you have to establish your own camp spot. If you want that, not Pennsylvania, not Kentucky, definitely not New England. Definitely not New England. I hated the politics of getting out into the wilderness and in New England. I hated it. West Virginia, you get out into these wilderness areas. We went with a friend of mine. His name is Kevin. Kevin's about 15 years older than me. And we took Kevin out to this wilderness area in West Virginia. Got up on this mountain. Absolutely no paint marks on trees. What do they call those? What do they call that? Blazes. No blazes on trees. You actually have to know how to navigate. There was a trail, but it was like a deer trail. It looked like a deer trail. And so we get in like 2 or 3 days. Well, it starts storming on us. And this also is in the summertime. And it is storming, and the trees are going back and forth, and everything is soaking wet. And I reckon we're 20 miles, something like that, away from our car. 20 miles in West Virginia wilderness. That trail just disappears. This deer trail, like we've been following. We did have a map, but I mean, if you can't see a trail, it really complicates things, because then you have to bushwhack. You have to maintain a direction while you're bushwhacking. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what's around the corner or anything like that. That's what I've always experienced in West Virginia. We come out, my friend Kevin went to a park ranger and was complaining that they don't have any blazes on their trees and stuff. And she's like, well, we like it like that. We want it to be completely wild, and we want people who are going in there to have some skills and stuff to get through an excursion, to get back to their cars and get around and stuff like that. So, it's it's a serious deal when you are going into the wilderness areas in West Virginia. So I hope that gives you an idea. I love Pennsylvania. It's definitely not. Um, it's just not as challenging, and it doesn't require as much skill as West Virginia does. Going into the wilds of West Virginia, because nobody's babysitting you. It's like they're not going ahead of you, blazing trees, pre-establishing campsites for you to, like a day's journey each one. They're not doing that. So you really, in West Virginia, if you decide to go, and I'm not talking about some of the more popular areas of West Virginia, like Dolly Sods. I've never been to Dolly Sods, believe it or not. But one of the reasons I haven't been to Dolly Sods is because I don't like sharing the woods with people. If I want to be around people, and I love people, by the way. I'm a social person. I love people. But when I go into the backcountry, primarily what I'm there for is intimacy with the woods. I want all the subtle stuff. I want to be paying attention and absorbing all the subtle stuff of the woods. And I like to be there with people, but what I mean is other parties. I don't want to share it with other parties. You see these pictures of like Machu Picchu in Peru. What do you see? Jihan says, I agree Pennsylvania is moderately easy. I should add to that. It really depends on where you're going, because it is moderately easy as long as the trails are known and frequently used. But even in Pennsylvania, you can find areas that have been almost forgotten. Like there used to be a trail there. People have forgotten about it. Nobody hikes it anymore. Those are the ones I really like in Pennsylvania, because you've still got some direction with like some blazes, although they're fading. You still have to climb over trees and that sort of thing, because you don't have like teams swooping in and keeping the trails clear. So those are the areas I really like in Pennsylvania. In West Virginia, G Hunt says West Virginia sounds like it's more fun. A lot more work. G Hunt says hunters know. Yeah. Well, I agree with you. The older I get, sometimes I appreciate a little bit of ease. I think I was just telling you last week, this last outing I went on with my buddy, Jeffrey, he was coming down with the flu. He didn't know it at the time. Coming down with the flu. And we were in an area in Pennsylvania that is not well traveled. So it was kind of a forgotten backcountry trail. There was this huge tree that had fallen down the side of the mountain, had fallen and crossed the trail. So you know how it is when you come to a tree like that. You can either like slink through all the different branches and everything, and if you're wearing a very large pack, it's almost impossible to do that. You can climb over the tree, or you can go around the tree. Well, he was out of shape. He's been out of shape, and so we decided to try to go up and around, thinking that was the easiest thing. It was incredibly difficult because the pitch of the mountain was like this, and you've got like 40 pounds on your back, right? And so you're going along like this, and then you got to go up and try to get around that tree. Very difficult. He ended up falling. He slipped, and then his backpack, the weight of it shifted. It threw him down on his face, right down the mountain. And I thought he was going to be seriously hurt, because, like I say, we ain't spring chickens. But he didn't get hurt. Anyway, my whole point of that is, I agree with you that sometimes a little bit of ease is nice. It's less work, lets you concentrate more on the woods. I mean, more on just enjoying the woods rather than working. the whole time you're out there. And West Virginia, we were a party of 4. It was me, my buddy Jeffrey, and friend Kevin. He's a character. I'll tell you, it is a classic crew of characters. And then we had another guy named John with us. We call him, his name's Willis, John Willis. We call him Bruce Willis. He actually he's bald like Bruce Willis. Anyway, John Willis. Willis was with us, and so we're a party of 4. We get up there. These guys have no experience with any of this stuff at all. So it was up to me and my buddy Jeffrey. It was so difficult to try to figure out which direction the trail was going. It was a rainy day. We were getting poured on, and that took a lot of skill to get off that mountain, and it took a whole day. So I mean, if you think about it, you get disoriented in a situation like that, and you travel a whole day. If you started off disoriented, pointed in the wrong direction, you could end up 20 miles off course, which that has happened to me too. Ron Phillips on YouTube says he enjoys my wisdom and listening to the things that you do that I don't. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if it's there's definitely people who know more than I do. My grandpa would be one of them. My dad would probably be. When I was growing up, the way it happens in Appalachia is, when you're growing up in the woods, your family passes things down to you. So you're walking along and they point out, hey, look, that's ginseng. Hey, look at that. That's sweet anise. Hey, look at that. That's bloodroot. So look at that. That's a chicken of the woods, a big fungus that grows and stuff you can eat. So when you grow up in that environment and your families have grown up in those environments, they just pass these things down to you. And that's where my wisdom comes from. But I definitely don't know it all. And that's why you see on these exclusive videos, a lot of the times in the Practical Woodsman exclusive videos, I'm trying things for the first time. But I sit around and I'm like, I bet this would work. I've never tried this. I bet that would work. And so that's what you see get turned into a lot of my exclusive videos. I'm kind of using my experience, my knowledge of things I have had experience with, to try something brand new that I have no experience with. So that's the kind of the fun thing about the exclusive videos. Folks, I'm going to try to keep this at a half hour today because I hate that the locals guys get screwed. Until they extend my time, I'm going to try to keep these at a half hour. What I'd like you guys to do, if you're not on our locals group, is consider joining us over there at the practicalwoodsman.locals.com or download the locals.com app. Just search for the Practical Woodsman within. Another thing is, go over and see the new website I'm building. It's not finished. I'm still in the process of building it. practicalwoodsman.com. practicalwoodsman.com. I left off the just to make it simpler to remember and type. practicalwoodsman.com. Go check it out. It's not finished, but you guys can at least get take a gander at it. Give me some ideas in the comments for what you'd like us to use these live streams for moving forward, okay? I'm coming up with some ideas. I hope you will too. Clock's running out on me. 29 minutes, 30 seconds. So I'm going to bow out. I really appreciate you all joining me. Ron G. Huns, Scream Bleed Die Rot, who says I'm so handsome, I'm making him feel gay. I don't think I'm doing that to you. I think that's a you problem. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao.